When beginning to analyze data for a path analysis using Lisrel, it's very important that you create an initial folder that will hold your Lisrel files. In this case, we have the life expectancy data that we've been working on in class. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that that is the only file that I have in this folder to begin with. And then I'm going to close that file, and I'm going to open Lisrel. And what we want to do with a raw data file, such as the SPSS data file, is we need to import that. So we're going to go to File and Import Data, and then we need to toggle to find the correct folder. Now you'll notice that in this case what we have to do is find the appropriate file type to be able to open it. In this case we have an SPSS data file .save. We could open Excel or many other data files, as you can see. And so when we select that type of data file, we see that then the life experience data file opens. And so we'll click on that and we'll go open. And then we have a box that wants us to name that file. So we're going to call it life exp. And what this does is it creates a prelist data file. And so we'll save that. And notice now we have the prelist data file that is in Lisrel format that Lisrel can use now to create our path analysis. One of the things that we need to do, not only to create this file, but we also need to run some statistics so that the Lisrel program will create what's called a DSF file. And this file is important because it holds all the information that Lisrel will need to use to make our path diagram and to produce our path coefficients. So we can go to Statistics and Output Options, and we can either select correlations or covariances. In this case I'm going to leave it at covariances, and I'm going to check Lisrel system data file. That's going to be important later on when we're creating our path analysis. And then I'm going to check Save to File, a life expectations asymptotic covariance matrix. That also will be used by Lisrel to create our path diagram and the path coefficients. So then we click on OK, and we get an output. And this is a descriptive output in the sense that it will give us a warning in terms of data that is interval level. I mean, technically this output is to give us correlations for ordinal data, but nevertheless we can still use it for our for creating the DSF file that we'll need to draw the path diagram. So we don't worry about this kind of a warning message. And then you can see we have our sample size, and then the sample size that is actually analyzed when removing missing data. And then we get the means and standard deviations for our different variables. And we get skewedness and kurtosis data as well. So we could do and look at this data ahead of time, but Lisrel also provides this information. So we got a lot of information to look at that we'll spend a little bit of time in class looking at. Then we have histograms, which are really turned on their side for the frequency distribution for each of our variables. And then we have the covariance matrix that's produced from our correlation matrix, the means and the standard deviations for each of our variables.